Well, everybody, we are following every development when it comes to the case of Gabby Petito. And today we know that an autopsy for the body believed to be hers is happening in Wyoming. So we did want to bring on our own expert to kind of break down this process for us. So I'd like to bring into the conversation Mr. Joseph Scott Morgan. He's a distinguished scholar of applied forensics at Jacksonville State University in Alabama, and he is here with us on Live Now from Fox right now. Mr. Morgan, good morning to you. How are you doing? Thanks so much for being with us.
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I wish we were speaking under better circumstances. So, Mr. Morgan, my first question to you is, so we heard from the FBI on Sunday. They found that body that they believe to be that of Gabby Petito's, but the autopsy is happening today. It's Tuesday, a couple days later. So why is that?
Yeah, I think that it's very important to remember how isolated this area is, Regina. This is not the type of case that these people are normally used to having. And so what they spent yesterday doing is gathering together every resource that would be available to them. And I'll just run down the list of players first off that'll be at the autopsy. Obviously, you're going to have a forensic pathologist. I imagine probably the top person that they have in Wyoming. More than likely, because of the time that this body has been down, you're going to have a forensic anthropologist. That's the individual that examines the bones. They will be present. In addition to that, more than likely, because ID is still an issue, you might have a forensic dentist or odontologist. And what's really good, if there can be any good part to this for the coroner's office there and the police, is that the FBI is already on the ground. So their evidence response team will be there, and they will physically be in the morgue, I would imagine, gathering all of the trace evidence. That's anything that's coming off the body, assuming that she was clad, and that's my assumption, in in a top and bottoms and all that sort of thing. They'll also be doing what are referred to as nail scrapings and nail trimmings. And this gives us an indication if there was any kind of fight that preceded her death, and they'll be looking for DNA and those sorts of things beneath the nails. And of course, the pathologist will look for insults or injuries to the backs of her hands. And a lot of this is going to be compromised to a certain degree because of the decomposition. And I'm sorry to say that, but that's just the reality. So these are my three keys that they're going to be looking for. They're going to look for hemorrhage in the neck, okay, in the strap muscles that are right here, and of course the cartilage in the neck. How many times have we heard about that relative to Jeffrey Epstein, to see if she's been choked? And also the hyoid bone that folks at home will just kind of feel this area up here. It's the only non-articulated bone in the body, and generally most of the time when it gets fractured, it's as a result of a strangling. They're going to look for depressed skull fracture, any kind of fracture to the skull. And also, I would imagine probably sharp force injuries, anything to do with a knife. I don't know that either of these people were in possession of a firearm. So those are my three big areas that I would look at relative to trauma.
Now, Mr. Morgan, how closely can you narrow down the exact day and time of death when performing an autopsy?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? And it's what people have asked for years and years. Anytime someone like me shows up at the scene, and I don't have any specific ability to divinate that. And this is the problem. It's only an approximation. I think that it's really key, Regina, the fact that we had that videography from the vlogger that captured those images. We know that van was sighted on the 27th. So what they're going to do is, if they use that as a starting point, they're going to compare that to weather conditions, relative humidity, heat, cold, rain, those sorts of things, and then the environment that surrounds the body. Compare that with the chronological time that we have and get an idea as to if that marries up scientifically with the rate of decomposition. You've heard heard about these studies that people do at places like the Body Farm up at UT and that sort of thing. That's where this stuff comes in, and that is critical because we try to measure the rate of decomposition. Unfortunately, like you see on television, in some kind of fantasy world, they try to give you very specific things. You can't do that. It's almost an empirical impossibility to put a specific number on it, but you can begin to whittle it down based upon some of the decompositional artifacts that we look for, Regina.
Yeah, and Mr. Morgan, obviously that van that you were talking about that Tampa family miraculously just happened to come upon in their GoPro video, it was close to that van where those remains were found. So I want to talk about when these FBI agents, when these coroners and medical examiners are at the scene, what forensics do they look for around where the remains are found for any possible clues?
I got to tell you, Regina, one of the big things that you're going to look for initially, and this is significant in this case, is how the body is cared for in its postmortem state. And what I mean is that if some kind of fatal trauma has occurred, the individual that is in control of that situation, how did they actually treat the remains? And I'm not getting all touchy-feely here. It's literally something that we assess. How did you treat these remains after death? Did you honor them in any way, just at a basic level, by digging a shallow grave, or covering the body with brush, or putting stones over the body, or cocooning them in a tarp, and those sorts of things? And absent that, if an individual just takes a fellow human being and drags them out onto the bare ground, which unfortunately I suspect is what has happened here, it tells us a lot about the perpetrator. Now, the other things that they're going to look for in addition to that are going to be obviously drag marks. They're going to look for signs of struggle. Sometimes, particularly this far down the road chronologically, that's kind of difficult to ascertain. They're going to want to see what kind of animal activity has been going on in this area. And if there was any attempt at all, maybe a half-hearted attempt to try to obscure the body. Remember, there was news coverage out there, and I've actually heard a reporter say that they thought that they saw the body from a drone view. And you remember that's when they deployed the tent, the crime scene tent that we use on a lot of these cases, to cover the body. And that's the reality of it. Now, they're going to pick up any kind of evidence that they can. And, food wrappers, did someone spend time with the body out there? Discarded items like clothing. Was there an attempt to de-dress or redress the body? Any object out there that may have been used to facilitate a death, a weapon, for instance, even if it was a bludgeoning weapon, anything that's out there, anything that was used that might have had a half-hearted attempt to obscure it, that's something that's going to be looked for as well.
Now, thank you for all of that insight, because I think that is a huge part of when something like this happens, is right exactly where that body is found. Now, I do want to play some video here for you. We do have the FBI searching the laundry home yesterday. So now, what evidence were the FBI likely looking for inside of this home, and how could this help with a forensic report?
Wow, Regina, this is going to be a big part of the case, and let me tell you why. I think that we had a discussion previously, and this is something I've had a discussion with a lot of my colleagues in the field as well. There's a lot of confusion about timeline here. The infamous van that was brought back from out west, brought here, and was actually kept here for a while. And items that may have been removed from the van, taken into the house, and then items that were taken out of the house and moved to the van. Now, my sources are telling me that they're bringing out, they actually brought out several computers out of that home because obviously they're going to want to check the hard drive. Remember, we've got a big gap in time here. So what was going on within that house that may have given an indication as to what happened to this poor young lady, and also what was happening in the interim? Was there planning going on? Because still to this very moment, to the best of my knowledge, unless something happened while I was sleeping last night, no one's seen hide nor hair of laundry. Okay, So they're looking for any clue right now. And the fact that the FBI is out there, they're going to have their electronic forensics people. They're going to be all over this. And then from a physical evidence standpoint, they're going to look for anything that has a physical tie back, Regina, to things like body fluids, blood, for instance, anything that may have leached onto an item of clothing, that sort of thing. And I think one of my big issues, the Mustang that you see being towed away is significant. However, for me, I think the tale is going to be told relative to this van. He had this van for a protracted period of time. I want to know, as a forensics guy, what'd you do with that van in the meantime? Did you take that van and clean it along the way? You know, he was in physical possession of this thing, because within that van, and they lived in this van for a long time, you're going to find DNA, but, you know, that's just part of living. You're going to slough skin cells, and there'll be body fluids and that sort of thing that you would normally expect to find and test for. However, if there was any kind of disruption relative to major trauma that may have taken place, like blood evidence, a huge amount of blood evidence, or tufts of hair, is there any indication somebody went through there and tried to do a major cleanup job within the environment of this van? And that is going to be key when they begin to kind of peg down this timeline along the way.
Now, Mr. Morgan, going off of everything that you just said, they're searching the Laundrie family home because Brian Laundrie has yet to be found. He has not cooperated with police. And if he were to be located, why would a physical examination of Laundrie himself be important to this entire investigation, as well as a forensic report?
Regina, you've been studying. I can hear it in your voice, so that's important. One of the things that you're going to look for, do you remember the tape that we had where they were being interviewed on the side of the road? You can actually appreciate what appears to be trauma on, I think it was the right aspect of his face. And, you know, people have alluded to the fact that this was apparently a strike mark or maybe a fingernail mark, that sort of thing. So that's going to be key relative to this. The problem is, again, we go back to time, don't we? Time is our enemy in anything we do in forensics. It's the biggest factor that we have to kind of tie into. So his body, if he is still with us, which, you know, we're all assuming he is at this point. Well, not all of us. I've heard a lot of stories out there. If he is still with us, he is still living. His body is going to continue to heal. So any kind of trauma he may have sustained, it may still be there, Regina, but it's not necessarily going to be as glaring as it would have been Fred. And everybody at home can identify with this. You know, if you get a bruise, you know how a bruise will go through those various stages, you know, go from red to, you know, kind of purple. It'll get that disgusting yellow color. It'll go to green, and then it resolves. That's just a bruise. And you think about scratches or abrasions. Well, those eventually heal as well, and everybody can identify with that. That's what you're up against when you're talking about an examination of his person if they get him into custody. And you have to keep in mind, let's just say, and I don't know if I totally buy it, that he's wandering around out there in that swampy area trying to survive. What if he's been traumatized out there physically some way, scratches, bruises, maybe he's malnourished or dehydrated, all those sorts of things that come with living in that swampy environment. He will have essentially taken on more trauma, physical trauma, and that might overlap what had earlier happened. So that's going to be one of the things that they're going to be kind of faced with in this case.
All right. Well, obviously lots to look out for when it comes today. But I think the overall question, and you've kind of touched on it a little, is the autopsy is scheduled for today. But do you believe that we as the public are going to have all of that information today? Or do you think it's going to take a couple of days or weeks?
Knowing what I know about medical examiners' offices and coroner's offices, I worked at one in Atlanta and I worked at the coroner in New Orleans, just outside of New Orleans. The answer to that is going to be no. I can almost guarantee it. I would be shocked because, you know, one of the things that they're going to do, it's not it's forensics is not microwave science. All right, it takes time because you have to analyze every aspect. And one other thing that's kind of important about this whole issue that I keep revisiting is toxicology. Are they going to have the ability to draw a sample from her body in order to run it toxicologically? You know, one of the things that came up in her comments on the side of the road was that she was suffering from OCD. I think she's got panic disorder, these sorts of things. And it seems to me that someone had stated at some point in time that they had run out of medication. Well, if you've run out of medication that kind of you maintenance your life with, you know, to deal with day-to-day issues, that's a big piece to this puzzle, because it goes into the narrative of what happened, you know, while they're going down the road. And that's something that they're going to want to find out. That the question is, will there be enough biological sample there in order to test it from a toxicological standpoint? That's going to be a big thing. So I can tell you from Jump Street that that's something that this case is going to be pending, I would imagine. Now, maybe they'll prove me wrong. I'm hedging my bets, but my suspicion is it's going to take them a little bit of time.
All right, well, we are definitely eager to see when we will get that information. But Mr. Joseph Scott Morgan, we really appreciate your time here. Is there anything that we missed that our viewers may need to know about as we are expecting that autopsy to happen today?
You know, Regina, I don't really know, because right now we're kind of in a holding phase. Also, keep this in mind. People have run this narrative that this is in fact Gabby. Look, more than likely it's Gabby, okay? But until they actually come to us from the podium and say, and they will say, that this is in fact this poor woman, we can't actually say that it's her. So look for that. That will probably come about sooner than the actual conclusions relative to the autopsy. They might have an opportunity to do DNA, I would imagine. You can probably still get the DNA sample. Like I said, there's going to be an odontologist at least accessible to them. They might do teeth. And if she's had any kind of significant surgeries or bone fractures or that sort of thing, they'll have x-rays and they'll try to marry all this stuff up. Remember, the FBI spokesman actually said this appears to be consistent with Gabby's remains. Okay. He's hedging his bets there. All right. Because we've all been burned at some point in time. So you got to take care up to a point.
The other thing I wanted to mention as you're saying this right now, when they say, because at first I was listening to the FBI's remarks on Sunday, and they said matches the description. And the first thing I thought of was initial reports that came out about her specific tattoos. So is something like that really big when it comes to them saying, okay, we can't confirm if this is 100% her, but it matches the description?
Yeah, I'm going to teach a lesson really quick here. Because I've been personally burned. Let me tell you something. Tattoos are great. Government IDs are great. I'm not going to hang my proverbial scientific hat on that, okay? It's a good starting place for an investigator. You have a tattoo in a specific location, that's fine. Okay, we've narrowed our field down. Now give me something scientifically I can hang my hat on where numbers can be applied. And of course, everybody is aware of this. You know, DNA is the best. It's the most solid thing that you can come up with. We have an opportunity to get parental sample in this particular case, where you know, we can test the DNA, or they can test the DNA from a living parent and compare that to what they have post-mortem. The tissues, there should be available DNA. It's not going to be degraded to the point where you couldn't do, you know, an ID. You know, worst case scenario, they would go into the bone or the tooth to get pulp. But I think that even beyond that, they're going to be able to extract DNA from the body that they have and compare it. And look, at the end of the day, everybody wants to be sure about this and wants to be very careful. So yeah, the tattoo is significant, but I as a death investigator who has been burned, I've had colleagues that have been burned. I never hang my hat on a government ID or even a physical description, or a tattoo, certainly, because I mean, half the world's got tattoos now anyway. So it doesn't really make you unique any longer. So you have to be very, very careful.
Well, this was all very good to know ahead of that autopsy scheduled today. Mr. Joseph Scott Morgan, we really appreciate your insight here on Live Now from Fox. This has been a very extensive case, and especially when it comes to forensic, we really appreciate expertise like yourself. So thank you so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. Hopefully we get to chat together soon.
Sure, you bet. Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity.